registered.
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Shaw and Councillor Hussey.
And can I give apologies for Councillor Sue Malson? She's not very well.
Right, that's fine.
And Chairman, could I give apologies for the fact that I have to leave early because I have a funeral to attend?
Oh dear. Yes. Okay, that's fine. Hunter, just leave as and when you need to. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right then, item number 2 is declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare any interests? Oh, is it Daniel?
Yeah, so it's already declared first, obviously, because it's my local authority. But I thought because of on the issue of real living wage, because Cardiff Council is a real living wage employer and has pushed for other organisations to be real living wage. I guess thought I'd mention that as a personal interest.
Yeah. I've also got you on one of the lists is Barry Town Council. I'm also on Barry Town Council as well. No others? Right. Moving on to item number 3. I don't have an announcement to make, and I believe Sarah's going to take the roll call now.
Yes, I will do. So, Councillor Ali.
Present.
Councillor Ali, lovely, thank you. Councillor Colbrand.
Yes, I'm present.
Thank you. Councillor Drake.
Present.
Councillor Ellsbury.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Evans.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgins. I'll see Councillor Hodgins online. Councillor Holmes.
In attendance.
Thank you. Councillor Hussey, we've got apologies for. Councillor Jarvie.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Lister. Can't see or hear Councillor Lister. Is Councillor Molson, we've had apologies for as well, haven't we? Councillor Norton.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw, we've had apologies for, and Councillor Thomas.
Present.
Thank you very much. That's the roll call complete. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, moving on to item number 4 is the minutes of the HR meeting on the 5th of July, 2021. I'll go through page by page. Page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, and page 7. Has any member got any items they wish to raise? No? Can I have a mover and a seconder?
I move that, Chair.
Second.
That's fine. Lovely. Thank you very much. So moving on now to item number 5. And I believe Alison was presenting this.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. So hopefully you've all had a chance to read the report. You'll notice that I've positioned this report as a paper for discussion because of the implications as regards staff salary costs. So any decision we make today would need to be ratified by full fire authority. So just to take you through the background, you will know that there was an announcement last week in terms of the national minimum wage, which will increase from April 2022 to £9.50 an hour. That rate equalises the national minimum wage and the Real Living Wage Foundation's rate. The paper itself has been pulled together on the basis of some discussions that have been happening, as a couple of you have already said, around the direction of travel, certainly from a Cardiff as a national city perspective. but also internally within the fire service around the direction of travel on national minimum wage and the Real Living Wage Foundation's desire to have pretty much every organisation in the UK pay in what the Real Living Wage Foundation rate should be as a minimum hourly rate for employees. Just to make the distinction between the two, the national living wage and the national minimum wage are set by UK government. So the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, so that's BEIS, set the policy direction on the national living wage and the national minimum wage. The Real Living Wage Foundation, which is a voluntary organisation, has set the direction for the real living wage hourly rate. The background here is that, as I mentioned up front, there was an announcement last week which sets the national minimum wage at £9.50 per hour from next April. This figure was driven by a report that was commissioned by BEIS through the Low Pay Commission to give its view on what the national minimum wage should be from April of next year. So that's where the £9.50 per hour has been arrived at and will come into force from next April. So essentially there's an equalisation between the national minimum wage and the Real Living Wage Foundation hourly rates. The paper that you've got in the pack sets out some background context in terms of the public sector landscape in Wales. So as we already know, Barry and Cardiff are already accredited to the Real Living Wage Foundation, and there are some 30 odd other public sector organisations in Wales that have signed up to be part of the Real Living Wage movement. Some other things to mention before we open the discussion. Within Wales, we know that at the centre of Cardiff's COVID recovery plan, there's an ambition to build back better, fairer, and there is a view that organisations, certainly in the public sector, who adopt the Real Living Wage Foundation are essentially setting the scene and role modelling good practice across Wales. In terms of where we stand as a service and as a fire and rescue authority, there are a couple of things that I've highlighted in the paper in terms of terms and conditions are one aspect which are set centrally by the NJC. And there is an appendix attached to the report which highlights issues certainly around national minimum wage and the ability to meet those levels of pay. However, as we now know, those levels have equalised from next year. We also did some analysis around where the national living wage and the national minimum wage were in terms of comparison. Again, the appendices 3 and 4, where we've done that analysis, really have been overtaken by events now in that those two figures have equalised. So I guess in terms of the implications for the service, one thing that the report does indicate is that as a service we are paying above both rates, so both the national minimum wage as is currently set and the Real Living Wage Foundation rate. So our lowest pay point within service at the moment is £10.01. So we are currently paying above the Real Living Wage rate, and of course we will remain there come April of next year. Obviously that depends on the current award that we're awaiting news on, the local NJC award for Green Book staff, but I would imagine that in April we'll still be ahead of the curve on the basis of my calculations as regards the national and real living wage rates. In terms of, I guess, where we want to position ourselves as a service, morally and ethically, being accredited to the Real Living Wage Foundation is a good thing to do. It does send that signal to other employers. And we are, of course, already paying above that rate. So, it could be argued that we should jump in and accredit to the Real Living Wage employer scheme. One thing that we would need to bear in mind is that there is a financial impact if we end up in a position where we can't afford to match the Real Living Wage Foundation rate. The Real Living Wage Foundation have an ambition to pay £10.50 per hour by 2024. So we would need to be cognizant of that fact from a financial planning perspective if we did accredit to the Real Living Wage Foundation employer scheme. I think that's as much as I wanted to say as by way of an introduction. Hopefully I've sort of set out the context, the background, and shared some thoughts in terms of things that we need to think about as an authority going forward if we are to adopt the Real Living Wage Foundation accreditation. It is a voluntary scheme, so we could adopt it, jump in, and if we find in future that we can't meet the rates, then we could excuse ourselves from this scheme. So by way of an introduction, hopefully that gives you everything you need. I think what I'm looking for now is a discussion around direction, and if we think it's a good thing to do to jump in to become a Real Living Wage Foundation employer, then I would obviously want to ratify that at Fire Authority because of the financial implication in future.
You've answered one of my questions. If we signed up to it, we could come out as well. I didn't think.
Yes.
I was saying if we signed up to it, we're in there for the future. So anyway, I'll open it up to other members. Councillor Evans, I believe you got your hand up.
Yeah, the first thing, Alison, can we not use the word jump because I don't think that's the appropriate thing. Join or disengage from it, but jump I don't think is the right word.
Sure.
I think it's a good idea, but if it's a voluntary thing, what did it actually give to the service? If it's just a volunteer service, is it good publicity for us? Is it good financial imparity to show everybody we're paying above the minimum living wage? What does it actually give to us as a service? That's what I really want to know.
Yes, so I think what it would give us as a service is, as part of our recruitment and attraction strategy, it's a good thing to show prospective applicants that we are accredited to the Real Living Wage. So that from that perspective, it's really good to do. Financially, at the moment, there would be no change for us because we are paying above that rate. So I think it has benefits as a good employer in Wales.
I got
Councillor
Holmes. I don't know who put their hand up first, Councillor Norton or Councillor Holmes. I'll let you fight it out.
I'll let Daniel go first if you want to.
Yeah, I would let you go first, Councillor Holmes, but I'm happy for you to go first.
We're getting very formal today, Daniel. You want me to go first?
If you want, yeah.
Go ahead.
Age before beauty.
Daniel. Madam Chair, I've always said, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Looking at the chart on page 12, as I see it, bear in mind what we've just been told, that the real living wage will go up to £10.24 in 2024. Do you think that the lowest spinal point or the lowest pay point that we give should go up to near £11? I believe that if you offer and you pay a good salary, you get a damn good return from officers. Thank you.
Councillor Norton?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with most of the comments already made. Our services are already paying significantly more than the national minimum wage and the national living wage. As trends continue, both the national living wage and minimum wage probably going to become very similar by 2024 anyway. So I don't think it'll be a big issue for us to meet the £10.50 an hour, because I think the national minimum wage will be very similar to that by 2024, if not on that level. And again, as the report says, a lot of our current lowest paid employees, who again are paid higher than that level, but they are disproportionately female. So I think it does send a good sign to people of South Wales that we are obviously a good employer. We are paying at least for national living wage minimum, and obviously we tend to pay as much as we possibly can to award for service of people who work for us. And again, we can always review it if financial situation changes, because again, it's only voluntary.
Does anybody else want to make any comments? Councillor Aylesbury?
Yeah, I just think, why wouldn't you want to pay someone? Sorry, oops, that moved. I just can't see why you wouldn't want to pay someone a wage that they can live on. We all know that everything is going through the roof at the moment. Gas prices, fuel prices, food prices. You try living on the minimum wage at the moment. I'm probably the same as a lot of people here. When I bought my first house, I could get a mortgage for 3.5 times my income. Now I need a mortgage for 17 times my income. I can't actually now afford to buy my own house. And I have 2 children, 2 sons, not children, grown up, they're adults. They can't afford to buy their own property because they're on a minimum wage. And I can't see how they could survive by not living at home. You know, personally, I'd love to see them go. It'd be great. It's a nice, quieter, happy house. And you can imagine what it's been like since lockdown. However, they can't afford to move out. And, you know, if your heart and your head says the same thing, pay someone what they're worth. Pay something so they can actually afford to live. Because otherwise, what's the point of living? What's the point of working? So, yeah, I thoroughly, first class endorse this. Thank you.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would agree with everything that's said, but we're paying above already, and my concern would obviously be at the new levels that might come out in the future and the affordability then for the authority.
Unfortunately, we haven't got a crystal ball at the moment to look in the future, have we? No. So what does everybody wish to do? Do we want to go for the accreditation?
Yeah, I move or endorse or whatever we have to do.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to second it,
Yeah.
Agree, Chair.
Everybody agreed with that?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
Yes, quite happy, Chair.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want anything more of us, Alison?
No, thank you, Chair and members. That's really helpful. We'll table this for the December Fire Authority if we can get that onto the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, did somebody say want to speak then? No? Okay. Right, then we go on to item number 6, which is the proposed reforms and new terms and of reference for Scrutiny Committee. I believe Geraint is going to take us through this.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, members.
Morning.
Members, some of you will already be aware of this report from the recent Scrutiny Committee that took place at the beginning of October. So apologies for hearing the same report pretty much again. But all members, you'll be aware that there's several reports on this particular topic have been sort of brought through the committee structure and through Fire Authority in the last municipal year. And that's at the end of March last year, the Fire Authority, and the minute is attached to this report, they asked for the consideration to be put back through the committees for firm proposals to be brought back to the Fire Authority later this municipal year, with the proposals hopefully embedded then for next municipal year. Just to remind members, going back right to the start, the initial proposals that were put to the scrutiny committee, there was 4 options. The first one was to advertise for a committee of independent members. The second option was to seek non-fire authority members from the 10 constituent authorities to be on the scrutiny committee. The third option, which was a mix, a hybrid of those 2 options. And then a fourth option, which was fire authority members only, but co-opting independent subject matter experts as and when required. It went through the various committee structures then last year, and then just before it got to Fire Authority, the Finance Committee came up with an additional proposal, which was to merge the HR and Equalities Committee and the Finance Committee, so the FAPM, as one committee made up of 10 members, and to retitle it a Resources Committee. That was a proposal that was put sort of very late in the day before it went to the Fire Authority, and I think that's why the Fire Authority asked for it to come back through the committee structure for further consideration. At the Scrutiny Committee on October the 11th, the various options were discussed again, and I think it was a firm decision and a sort of firm recommendation from that committee that they would go forward with a Fire and Rescue Authority member-only committee, but with invited subject matter experts as and when needed. So the other 3 options were firmly ruled out at that stage. The one thing that they did consider then was the makeup of the committee going forward. And obviously, the current problem that we're sort of encountering with the Scrutiny Committee is the numbers on the Scrutiny Committee that do not have the independence from other committees, but maintaining, obviously, Fire Authority only members. There would only be 2 members on the Fire Authority who do not sit on Finance Committee or HR and Equalities Committee. So the numbers available to be truly independent of committees is obviously limited. So that puts it in a bit of a dilemma. So on paragraph 2.4, it sets out some of the recommendations made by the Scrutiny Committee, which they felt is an appropriate way to take this forward. So the first one is that chairs and deputy chairs of the Fire Authority or committees are not able to be part of the Scrutiny Committee. Members of the FAPM Committee are not able to form part of the Scrutiny Committee. Members of the HR and Equalities Committee are permitted to be part of the Scrutiny Committee, and then invited co-opted subject matter experts would still be invited as and when required. However, there was an additional point raised by several of the members in that committee about the level of workload and the impact on members, and it is a growing workload all the time, I think, on members, and the number of reports and papers to go through. There is considerable pressure put on, I think, a small band of members covering the same committees. So there was an additional proposal put forward at that point, would be to reduce the HR and Equalities Committee from its current 15 members down to 10, which would free up 5 members to be able to sit independently on the Scrutiny Committee. So at that point, that was the recommendation there, and that's when sort of decision was taken to put that forward, to come through to this committee, then prior to go to the Finance and Audit Committee, and then on to hopefully the Fire Authority later in the year to get recommendations pushed through for next year's municipal year as the makeup of the scrutiny board or committee. And just for members' information, I put in the report as well to remind members that the original committee, this committee, was only originally 5 members. It was made up of 5 members, and it was increased to 15 members back in 2009 to deal with the volume of disciplinary appeals that were going through at that time. However, it subsequently the need for members to sit on appeals panels has been removed, and that is dealt with by senior officers within the service now. So the options are there for consideration, and the recommendation of the report is for members to consider those options in paragraphs 2.4 and 2.5, with a view to being presented then to the FAPM committee and then on to the Fire Authority later in the year. So happy to take any questions at that point, Chair.
Right, I'll open it up to members who does anybody want to speak? Councillor Norton, then Councillor Evans, and then Councillor Holmes. Councillor Norton?
Okay, so I thought you were going for Councillor Evans first, but I'm happy to go first if Councillor Evans is having an issue with his microphone.
Whatever.
So it's a bit of Groundhog Day. So I know this has come up a lot, but I'm fully in favour of recommendations. I think, we can work this committee with 10 members only, and I think having 10 members only on this committee will free up some people to fully focus on scrutiny, while still having the numbers work, allowing some members of this committee to sit on scrutiny. I think the only other option is having one resources committee, as I said before, on a scrutiny meeting. I think that would be too much work for those members, because I think the reports would be very large, and you would have a danger of some HR and equalities reports being dropped because we wouldn't have time for both. And I think the finances would take precedence because they would have to, obviously, for the financial stability of a service. So I would support all these recommendations going forward.
Right. Councillor Evans?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, they came in front of the FAPM originally with a proposal, and we didn't think they were viable to work, particularly across all members. I agree that the HR needs to come down with members, but as you've got to appreciate, both us as chairs and vice chairs, that limits the number by 4 straight away, and the vice chair the authority. So it does give us room to manoeuvre, and also some of us as chairs and vice chairs sit on both the HR and the FAPM. So it does free some members up, hopefully, in that respect. So I think it's a way forward myself, and find a viable solution to the problem we've had from Northerly regarding the scrutiny process. So, yeah.
Councillor Holmes, do you want to come in?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. What I would like to know is, where would we call upon these pool of experts? How would we go about that? And the point is, our members with the fire committee, have we ever gone through or trawled through to see what expertise that they possess?
I don't know. Anybody can answer that?
Yeah, to answer the first question, Councillor Holmes, obviously it would be dependent on the subjects that are being considered by the scrutiny committee. So, and it's only then, if felt by the members of the scrutiny committee, if they needed subject matter experts brought in from outside the fire service, they could. For example, when we were looking at the asset management strategy in the last committee, if we felt there was specific elements within that were outside the expertise within the property team, within the service, we could fetch that expertise from outside for someone to speak and to allow members to ask questions to them for specific additional knowledge.
Thanks.
With the second bit, I suppose it is doing a sort of a skills matrix of the members, because members have got additional skills and backgrounds in addition to just being fire authority members. So that's something that we could perhaps capture, especially the members that are sitting on the scrutiny committee in the future.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Roberts?
Yes, I'd just like to move the recommendations. I'm sure there'll be further discussion on this at the fire authority meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So
Chair.
Chairperson, sorry to interject. Councillor Ali was indicating to speak at one point.
Oh, I couldn't see that, unfortunately. Councillor Ali, did you want to speak?
Yes, Chair. I'm supporting the proposal to move forward on this. Thank you.
Oh, right, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to go with the recommendations 2.4 and 2.5, and also, which wasn't mentioned, including the political balance as well.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I was just going to come back to that point. Yeah, obviously, when it goes through the fire authority, if it's accepted at that point, when it comes to the AGM next year, then having a reduced membership on this committee, it would still have to remain as a politically balanced committee, whereas the FPM is one member from each of the local authorities and doesn't have to be politically balanced. this committee, within the current terms of reference anyway, it says that it does have to be politically balanced.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Councillor Evans?
Yeah, only just to say that we have to look at this because it's been a recommendation by the Welsh Audit. So that's the reason we've had to look at this at great length and a great discussion because of that. We're not changing it for the sake of it. It's because it's been recommended by the Audit Wales.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Councillor Evans. Now, as I don't know who moved and who seconded it. I can't remember now. Is it everybody agreed?
Councillor Roberts, yeah.
Yeah, everybody agreed to that?
If everyone turned their cameras on, I could and held their hands up if they're in agreement. I could take that rather than do a roll call. Councillor Norton and Councillor Jarvie, I can't see you at present. Councillor Norton is indicating yes, and Councillor Jarvie.
Has he?
Are you still there, Councillor Jarvie?
He may have left.
I can take everybody else's vote. So, in the absence of Councillor Jarvie managing to indicate, then that's been taken through unanimously.
Oh, thank you very much, everybody. Right, we move on to item number 7, which is the Firefighters Pension Schemes Welsh Government Circulars 21-22, and Alison will be going through that.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is the usual report to share with you the latest updates from Welsh Government on fire pensions and other related governance matters. Since the last update, as indicated in Appendix 1, are 2 updates. The first one, taking the oldest one first, is a circular relating to performance indicators. This was shared with the corporate services team and the senior management team for action. The second circular related to fire pensions and set out some minor changes to the independent procedure for dispute resolutions on fire pensions. Again, this was shared with the HR team, our pensions administrators who are RCT, and the senior management team. All those updates have been actioned, so that this report is just to share with you those circulars and the actions taken against each one.
Right. Does any member want to ask Alison any question? Councillor Evans?
I don't know whether this implies in this report. Are we any further on the MacLeod judgment, and are we still suffering financial implications because of that process?
Yes to both, Councillor Evans. So we've had some communication from the Home Office and the FBU. So there has been a memorandum of understanding agreed in order for us now to start progressing cases under MacLeod. And my understanding, although I'll check with Geraint, is that we have a budget set aside for responding to those cases.
Yes, confirm that. Yes.
Nobody else? No, we all agreed.
Yeah.
So we take this on.
Note the actions taken. Note the actions taken, Chair.
Yes, yeah. We note the recommendations and move forward. Okay, thank you very much for that. Now we move on to item number 8, which is the South Wales Fire and Rescue Service overview of Training and Development Department, which is 2021. And Brian Thompson is going to take us through this report. And I would like to thank him very much for this plan, taking the service forward, operating under very difficult circumstances over the last 18 months. And I trust we can actually move forward safely. So over to Brian.
Thank you, Chair, for your kind words, and good morning, members. This is where it could probably go horribly wrong. Bear with me, I'm going to share my screen. Sarah, I hope you're training me well on this. Okay, all members see the screen? The PowerPoint is just a short PowerPoint presentation, 5 slides. I know you've got the reports embedded in your documents. Okay, looking at some of the key performance indicators then from Cardiff Gate during what was a difficult year. We actually overachieved. We delivered 5,093 instructor days worth of training, which was 13% increase on a sort of steady state non-COVID year. The reason for that was course attendance. We had to put on more courses because we were operating within the 2-metre distancing rule, etc. So the COVID restrictions meant we had to put on more courses. But combined with the low sickness, touch wood, of the Cardiff Gate staff during the COVID pandemic and still in it, we actually overachieved. And to put that into context for members, pretty much most fire and rescue services across the UK shut down their training departments. So they just pretty much focused around the operational response. We chose not to do that because it's very hard to recover your competencies if you let them go too long without revisiting those skill sets. So we kept our risk critical training going and overachieved essentially. Not a single course had to be cancelled due to COVID. Again, very proud of the team down there and delivering on that. And all risk critical training completed during the high performance and safety of our staff. So those are the headlines of this sort of year, really, that I want to talk you through. And then some key data on the performance. So we delivered 975 training events, 6,163 firefighters, so firefighters on numerous courses, the same firefighters. That was on average a 78% course attendance, which again isn't really bad. Our sort of plan assumptions for 75% steady state course attendance, because obviously, let's say our customers are operational staff and the priority is always firefighters on fire engines. So 75% would be our plan assumption. So again, 78% is testament to the wider workforce in terms of our COVID response. And then some key metrics on the top table: 156 VA courses, 43 trauma courses, 350 driver training courses. The attendance versus capacity there is looks like an outlier, same as course skills. And that's because with driver training, you normally do 2 students, 1 instructor. We had to go 1 for 1 during COVID, but we can now go back to 2 for 1 there. Incident command, core skills, and miscellaneous. So those are some of the key metrics on the performance during 2021, which essentially was the COVID year. Any questions on the performance of training before I move on to the 5-year plan briefly? Just a couple more slides.
Yeah. Well.
Councillor Evans?
Yeah, was there any restrictions on any of the training courses due to equipment shortages? I know there are difficulties trying to get stuff, due to a lot of shortages and the movement and stuff.
No, thanks for the question, Councillor. No difficulties at all. I mean, I'm guessing there's wider implications for the new fire kit for the service, but all the recruits that come on the courses have got the new kit. And that's just a sort of Ballyclare issue, really. They're stepping up now and delivering the fire kit. But no restrictions. The only restrictions really were the sort of re-engineering the classrooms so that we have people sort of set 2 meters apart. But yeah, no implications other than that.
Any other member? Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. What I was going to ask is, the training is undertaken at Cardiff Gate, the training centre. Do we sort of interact with across the water at Avonmouth, and do Avonmouth send people across the Cardiff Gate for a relevant course?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Holmes. No, we have interaction in terms of obviously sharing best notable practice, and obviously Babcock's the PFI partnership down there, and they're involved in Avon. But no, we don't do any sort of training their staff or their staff training ours. We have in the past. We used to do what's called third-party income generation. But what we found was with that was our staff in Cardiff Gates were pretty much just constantly working. And the returns on the third-party investment were, correct me if I'm wrong, Geraint, they really weren't worth the effort we were putting in, because Babcock's would take a fair share of that as well. But yeah, well, there's opportunities to cross-skill and attend different training centres. We do. Certainly on an all-Wales basis, we do a lot of joined-up training. particularly around sort of water rescue and driver training, because there's new standards coming next year, and we've got to make sure we're ready for those standards coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Any other member want to raise anything on that page? No? Shall we move on then?
Certainly. So I've written a new 5-year plan, and just pretty much the 4 key objectives within the plan, and the plan complements sort of the South Wales strategic themes 2020 to 2030, and sort of recognises our people strategy, our carbon strategy. So the objectives really are to develop and evolve sustainable training programmes to make sure we're efficient, effective, and make sure we're preparing our staff for current and emerging risks. Improving our training facilities and ensuring sustainability is a key component of modernisation of the training estate. And already we're moving to paperless in Cardiff Gates. The new recruits, for example, have laptops, and there's no paper handouts. All of what they need is electronic. Ensuring the training establishment is fit for purpose for current and future delivery, and ensure we're managing our assets and resources more effectively in Cardiff Gate. The 5-year plan is coming to SMT later this month. But what we're looking at really there is the fit for the training establishments. Have we got enough instructors? So I'm looking at that now for the immediate risks and where we're going to be in the next 5 years, and to make sure we deliver sustainable training programs. My strapline for training is preparing firefighters for today's risks and tomorrow's challenges. And I always smile when I say that, because that's our mission. We're really good at preparing firefighters for today's risks, but tomorrow's challenges, if we become more efficient, it'll free up capacity to have a look at those challenges. So that climate change, the lack of exposure in terms of our call profile falling. So we need to be in a position where we are taking care of a sort of business for today, but making sure we get our skill sets ready for the challenges that we're going to face.
I was going to ask one question. You just mentioned it about challenges at the moment with climate change. Are we up in our delivery of service for water rescues and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the standards increase next year. So the legislation, or guidance we follow, falls under DEFRA in the UK. So we ensure we're compliant with DEFRA. And what we're going to be doing, has come to SMT recently, is we're going to be upskilling all our whole time stations so that they can deal more effectively with water incidents. But of course, we're one of the few services that get affected by climate change in both spectrums. So sort of the wet weather and the warm weather. We've seen that the wildfires that we're having here and how they've grown disproportionately, I'd say, in size over the years. So, and of course, the other challenges is the electrification of the railway lines. Our fleets. Electric car fires, for example, very difficult to deal with for the fire service. So it's making sure we got the skill sets and the equipment to deal with those. So we've got to be efficient now to make sure that we've got capacity to do that going forward. But yeah, water rescue, the standards change in January, but we're ahead of that as a service because we're going to upskill all our all-time stations. And every firefighter will have water training, just some it'll be scaled to the duty systems and where they work.
Thank you for that. Councillor Evans wanted to ask a question.
Yeah. In your 5-year strategic plan, is there anything in place for the Welsh Government's recommendations for medical care? I know it's an ongoing issue at the moment, but we put that in the 5-year strategic plan, particularly for training.
Yeah, we're going to be reviewing all our training. Thanks for the question. It's actually, I've led services through medical trials that we've done in the past, so it's something very close to my heart. Our fire trauma course has evolved over the years and in line with our experiences in those medical trials. We've got fantastic equipment on all our fire engines. We've got defibrillators, our trauma packs now are really right up there. And our firefighters are really, really good at basic life support. So I think our current sort of training's fit for purpose, our equipment's fit for purpose. The bit that we would have to have a look at, Councillor, is the broadening of the role that's taking place for Welsh Government. They also see a role for firefighters for people falling in their own homes. So it's like fallers in their own homes with sort of low acuity injuries. How will we deal with them? If that is agreed with the rep bodies and with Welsh Government and all the stakeholders, then we'd have to have a look at some sort of manual handling, but manual handling around people, not objects. So that would be the only bit that we'd have to uplift in terms of our preparedness for medical response. Okay, that just last slide coming up. something I'm always good on, always like to ensure is the measure of success. So how do we know we're being successful? So I've improved the governance structure and training, so the hierarchy and training. And really it's about building those internal relationships. So since I've taken over, really, it's about, we've got a far more effective relationship with HR, and particularly recruitment development and learning development teams. What I will be doing is producing a key quarterly assurance reports, which will give the senior management team and members, if they so wish, an update on progress. So rather than sort of once a year, there's quarterly reports available to map out our success against these sort of timelines within the 5-year plan. And a key element to that is the course management system, which we've invested in as a service. What that will allow us to do, and we're pretty much coming into about 6 months of its use, so we'll need another year or so worth of data, but it will allow our operations team to sort of see the courses a year in advance and nominate on those courses. So I guess the utopia would be in the future that we were able to have 100% attendance, but the course management system will allow us certainly to increase the attendance on the courses, which means we can be more efficient because we won't have to put on mop-up courses for those that didn't attend. So that's pretty much the previous year's performance and a sort of brief overview of the 5-year plan. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Roberts?
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say, I mean, this has been an excellent report throughout, and we certainly didn't come up short, did we, in the provision and attendance of the courses. And I just said I commend the report and move recommendations subject to any further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Evans?
Yeah, bringing up on this, have we got a comparison for our KPIs on what we've done during the COVID to what we've done previous? Because I just think it'd be tremendous for the amount of work that's gone into this to compare them between each other, just to show how hard you've been working during the COVID crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Andrew. I've got that detail, and that's going to SMT later this month, where we can see a pre-COVID year and a COVID year. And I guess to take that forward, what we're using as a plan assumption is an average of those 2 years. So it'll take us a while to recover from COVID. So we're not going to go back to pre-COVID levels in terms of instructor days. So I anticipate we'll need something in the region of 4,800 instructor days to deliver the core skills and the risk-critical training we need for the next couple of years. And I've got all the data pre-COVID, during COVID, to support that. So yes, the answer is yes, we've got all that data.
Thank you very much. Well, Councillor Roberts to remove the recommendations that we consider the report and the accompanying 5-year strategic plan, which supports the organisation's future training needs. Do I have a second?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. It was a very, very good report. And onward and upward, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. The item number 8 is the forward working plan as it stands at present. Have you got any questions on this? Anything else that anybody wants to put forward? No? So we go with that then. Okay. Right. Item number 9. To consider any items of business that the chairperson deems urgent. Well, I haven't got any items. So I would like to thank everybody for your attendance. Hope you'll be all out on bonfire night with your sparklers. But I think it's going to be a bit of a washout.
Yeah. We want a safe night, under the service. And protect all the animals. That's the most important bit.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I was never one for a bonfire night. I hated Jackie jumpers. So a lot of you won't remember those, but they were nasty things. If you had a pair of white trousers, they go up your legs. And thank heavens they banned them. Anyway, thanks very much, and have a
Thank you, folks. All the best.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all. Bye. Bye.